Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to actually a podcast. I don't actually have a title for this yet. Maybe we'll figure one out in this episode. I've had people give me some suggestions like Spawn on One, Spawn
Oh,
and
that's
Friends,
good.
Spawn
Spawn
in
and what?
Friends,
Yeah.
which that might be not safe for. I don't know, but I've been going around asking people. People have been very, very accommodating to hop on and hang out for a little bit here. People like the viewers like the crossovers. So today I have with me someone I see pop up all the time, actually, on the YouTube homepage, Luke Stevens of Luke Stevens Live. Which it's a lot easier when you title your YouTube channel your actual name. Now that I'm thinking about it, so it's good to have Luke Stevens here. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this. It's always nice to talk games, it's a vibe. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and people. I mean, this will go up over the weekend, but it is like literally hours after the Xbox Direct that happened. So a lot of stuff's hitting as we're recording from that event, and then all the stuff that went down over the last 24 hours from Ubisoft. It's funny. I reached out to you. None of this stuff had really transpired yet.
Yeah,
and now all this like hit.
We were like, there's probably going to be stuff to talk about. Like, we knew the Xbox showcase was happening today, so we're like, oh, surely there's going to be something to talk about. But then, like, turns out Ubisoft's exploding, and then we've also got the Xbox stuff, and there's other industry stuff going on. So it's a good time to I mean, normally this time of year is really dry when it comes to like gaming news. Just everybody is getting back in the swing of things from vacation and the holidays, and it's just slow. But I mean, this year, oh baby, we're off to the races right away.
Yeah, like the first week of January was kind of boring, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, it's like the place on fire half the time. So but it's actually good because I've seen you cover Ubisoft a lot. It seems like you're kind of following along with them for a lot of their projects that they're doing and the day to day almost with the company and the roller coaster stock that is just they went over the hill and now they're just flying downwards. It looks like right now. So I wanted to get into it with you for Ubisoft. Try to figure out what's going on there because they hurt me. They hurt me the other day.
Oh yes, the Prince of Persia.
That one hit hard. That one did. That one did. I was real excited about that game when it got revealed, and it unfortunately didn't hit the mark when they showed it, and it was clearly it wasn't going to work out for them, so they canceled it. Which was weird.
That one, I'm gonna be real. Like the cancellation thing, like people always get upset when things are canceled because they like the idea of what it was gonna be, right? Like you see Prince of Persia remake, oh, that could be awesome. But my general perspective is like, if it was canceled, like it was probably cancelable, is what I said the other day. Like chances are, if it was going to be really good and make tons of money and sell 5 million copies, they would have put it out. Chances are they just did internal reviews and were like, nope. This is probably just going to be another thing for people to get upset at us about. So they just decided to can it. And I have a conspiracy theory as to why they may have also canceled it.
Okay.
But basically, long story, because it's been like, a decade that game's been in the works. But that was originally being put together by, I think, Ubisoft Mumbai. It was a team in India, and then there's another team over there that was helping with it. And that was the team that put together that 2020, 2021 version that was supposed to release in 2021. And it just didn't look good. And so they moved it over, and Montreal, one of their A teams, started working on it. They got Ubisoft Toronto to help them on it. And so they moved everything over, basically started from scratch and worked on it. But what we do know is that Ubisoft is kind of desperate is probably an understatement, but they right now they need a W, and they're really hoping that Assassin's Creed is going to be that. They need Far Cry to be that, and they need Rainbow to be that. And all three of those are headed up in Montreal. So I suspect possibly like it didn't meet the quality standards for one. And then they also were like, we can free up like 150, 200 people to help finish these things that are much more like slam dunks. Let's just do that. So I think it wasn't looking as good as people would have wanted it to be. And it also like frees up some very important talent to go help them on the stuff that probably is more likely to make big dollars. But that's just, one piece of what happened yesterday with Ubisoft.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting Sands of Time remake to sell even 5 million copies. As we saw that the 2D Prince of Persia, which I actually think did all right. It was like 1.5 million copies or something. And for nowadays, 2D games come with this stigma where they can't be full price because it's 2D. And so I'm like, okay, here comes the 3D Prince of Persia that I still look back on that time of that trilogy, that Warrior Within, and then Two Thrones. And Sands of Time is still the one that's always stuck out to me. And I was very hopeful that, okay, they're sending it back to Ubisoft Montreal, the studio that made Prince of Persia: Sands of Time forever ago. I mean, sure, different studio heads and stuff with churn and stuff, but
Sure.
still, it seemed like they were like, no, no, we're going to take this seriously. It's Prince of Persia. We'll at least try to make a run at this, maybe revive it in a way. And then it was just, so it was kind of like this almost out of left field shock because we just heard the Prince of Persia account, the official one, say, hey, we're not at the Game Awards, but we can't wait to show you this game in 2026. And 4 weeks later or so, it's canceled. So it's just like, whoa.
Well, I think it was Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming. He had some sources and there was speculation and mumblings and rumblings that it was actually going to shadow drop on the 16th of January. And we heard that from like some pretty reliable people.
Mhm.
And then, of course, obviously, it didn't. And what seems to have honestly happened is that that was the plan. They were going to do that. In the last like 2.5 weeks, they did this big overview, review, whatever you want to call it, where a bunch of the new leadership from Vantage and Tencent. Sorry, my dog is barking. He thinks I'm trapped down here.
Oh no, I'm surprised you can't hear my kids running around in the like in the living room back there somewhere.
Oh, I get it. I got to myself. I get it. But basically, like it sounds like they did this big review with the new executives of Vantage Studios, which is the organization they founded with Tencent, and for whatever reason, they claim it's because it didn't meet quality standards. In addition to, I'm sure, other things, they just decided like pull the plug, even though it really does seem like it's probably done. It wouldn't shock me if a disgruntled employee or something just like drops it on the Internet Archive or something and lets people just take it. Like seriously, it sounds like there's a lot of very upset people within the organization here more generally. And typically when companies upset their employees, leaks start to happen a lot. And it sounds like there could be layoffs of as much as like 2,000 people.
I saw that pop up. I was like, oh, what? So the Ubisoft stock from, what was it, like 7 or 8 years ago or so, when it had an all-time high, and now it's down 95%. I mean, it just dropped 35% opening after they made this big announcement of restructuring and shuffling around projects and delaying multiple games, canceling others. 35% drop. I think it ticked back up a little bit, but they're closing basically 30% down from an already like unfathomable low amount.
Yeah.
And their value is so low that I do wonder if they didn't get that injection from Tencent, if they would have just start selling off different intellectual properties to stay afloat at this point.
Yeah, it's at some point there's just literally not enough, like, I don't know what the analogy would be. Like there's just not enough grease in the wheels, there's not enough cheddar in the cheese, I don't know. But like at some point they're not cash flow positive. And like this year, the reason the stock plummeted is not because like investors are upset they're focused on quality now. It's because the CEO said this is going to have a significant, I think what he said was significant impact on the fiscal years of 26 and 27, meaning a lot of the big moneymakers you expected for this year and next year are now shifting out, and we're going to see significant cost increases because they're being delayed, and then revenue decreases because they're probably not launching in the original windows. The stock is absolutely crazy. I mean, I'm a nerd for stock stuff. I talk about it all the time. People always joke whenever I mention it, you should take a shot. But I have a degree in corporate finance, and it's kind of my bread and butter. I find it fascinating. But Ubisoft's mismanagement is one for the history books. I mean, it really is incredible, but it really can all just whittle down to one simple fact, which is that they tend to prioritize the family more than the business itself. And right now, the co-CEO of Vantage Studio Group, which is in charge of Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow, is Yves Guillemot's son, whose last project was like a big NFT thing.
Yeah. So it's funny. I remember the whole NFT thing with Ubisoft, and they opened up their own little shop. They were talking about how your weapons or armor it would go between different games, but they never explained how that works. And I think they just saw the dollar amounts, and they're like, we got to figure out how to get in. By the time they get the store set up, and the whole thing just crashes. It's
You
like,
can tell it was all based on vibes. Like it's that napkin math, or like, literal MLM, like freaking pyramid scheme strategy. Because what they were doing is they're like, okay, we'll sell you this $100 skin, or you'll earn it in the game, and then you'll sell it to somebody else, and we take 10% commission on that, and then they buy that from you, so you made money on it. And then they sell it to somebody else for 10%. They take 10%. We keep that. And then they sell it to somebody else. And so we are just a broker. And that's how Steam makes a ton of money. It's how a lot of online like stores and shops make money, is those commissions. So it makes sense. The problem is, like, the key piece of that is you have to have people willing to buy it in order to take a cut of what they did. And that never made any sense, because nobody wanted to buy $100,000 skin in a video game.
Like, no, but it's weird, because it seems like you mentioned their focus is so scattered to where the games are almost, I don't say an afterthought, but it's not like way back in the day before all of a sudden the internet was connected to these single player games. I just kind of feel like Ubisoft was putting out stuff that felt more genuine on the gameplay, on the game side. Like, so right now, for example, they put out patches for some of the older Far Cry games, and so it's up to 60 frames per second on the PS5. And I was like, I wonder what the trophy list looks like for Far Cry 3. So I fire it up and I'm playing it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is how it used to be. I'm going through like this is okay. This is fun. You don't have a lot of the stuff being thrown at you. It's you hit the menu button and it has like all this shop that comes up around it for some reason, and it's much more straightforward. It's still the Ubisoft formula with the open world aspect, but it feels more streamlined, I guess, from a gameplay side, as opposed to, hey, it's taking a while for you to level up. How about we slide you this experience booster for $5 or something?
Well, like, it's so fascinating. Like, I was talking to one of the guys that worked on the publishing for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and he used to work at Ubisoft in like the early 2010s, like right when that pivot started to happen. And a story had come out where one of the game directors of Assassin's Creed 3 had said that we started to pivot towards big open worlds with collectathons and all this, like, what we would probably consider bloat and checklists and stuff that permeated through all of their games. He said we had to start doing that because corporate didn't want people to sell the games secondhand. And so we had to boost player times. And this guy from the publishing on KCD that worked at Ubisoft, he's like, oh, 1,000%. Yeah. It was a big initiative where it started with Assassin's Creed, and then we had to try and boost playtime across all games throughout the whole PS4, Xbox One generation, specifically to try and combat reselling, which I just find fascinating, that something as stupid as bloated games comes from GameStop. It's
right. GameStop's like on its way out now. So or if, I guess, the all digital era came about a lot sooner. Like, as soon as that digital storefront dropped on the 360 and the PS3, everyone immediately moved to it. And we didn't have that during the like physical games as much during PS4 and Xbox One. If they would have been like, oh, well, people aren't trading stuff in, so we don't have to structure our game around the economy outside the game. It's just that it's crazy to me, because back then in the GameCube, PS2, Xbox era, the Ubisoft logo was actually like a good thing when that came up. There was a lot of excitement, like when that would show up for like especially for the Prince of Persia series, but even back with Far Cry on the PC, it was like crazy looking when they dropped that. And they were known for much more. Rainbow Six during that time was insane too. And then even going into 360, I felt like we had Rainbow Six games dropping constantly, and now it's just Siege for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, it is fascinating, because there seems to be a couple of different philosophies. For one, I think Ubisoft, once they had a few fumbles, they really started to just think, well, we'll just try everything. We'll just go for volume and we'll see what sticks. And that can work if you have like Fortnite money, if you have crazy amounts of cash just sitting in your coffers, you can experiment. But that doesn't work once your other stuff, your cash cows, start to dry up, and that seems to be what happened. Like one of the things that the chief financial officer said in that earnings call announcement thing yesterday, I think technically it was a press event where they revealed this wasn't technically an earnings call, but one thing that he said seems like a no duh kind of situation, but he said we are focused on open world adventure and then refocusing on our key games as a service, which is like, yeah, that's what you should be doing. Open world adventure games. That's what people like from you, like the Assassin's Creeds, the Far Cries, but like the classic ones, not these RPG crazy collectathon games, not weird live service spin-offs, but like focus on what you're good at. And it seems like such an obvious revelation to have, but like this has taken Ubisoft losing 10 to 15 billion dollars in market cap to
Right.
realize, hey, we should maybe do something different. It's like I could have told you that. Um, but I think it's just we'll see what happens. Like on paper, the things that they're doing are necessary, and I think in the long term, probably good.
Mhm.
Ubisoft, just like last year, or maybe like 14, 15 months ago, before the first major round of layoffs, they had approximately 20,000 employees, which is ungodly
That's a
when you
lot.
consider
Yeah.
like the volume of games and like the size of the games they're putting out. It's just crazy numbers. So like they downsized and downscaled and did all that. But a lot of it's because they have studios that are working on Skull and Bones for a decade with 500 people, and they restart development 6 times. And every time it's because they get a game director that's like, oh, we're going to basically copy this game. And then somebody else comes in. Actually, that's not popular anymore. We're going to copy this game. There's just no creative like vision to push these projects. And so they just waste time and money and resources, and the teams bloat to the point where you can't get anything done. So it makes the problem worse. And I think what's pretty clear is that Ubisoft is a violently ill company. And sometimes when you're violently ill, you need a violent remedy. And that seems to be what they're doing now.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Back way back in the day with Ubisoft, earlier in those generations, it felt like they were more creative and kind of leading the charge. And now they have like kind of their cookie cutter Ubisoft formula that finds its way into so many of these IPs that probably don't need. So it's kind of the conversation I've had many times. There's like, does every game have to be the never ending game, the live
Mhm.
service open world experience? And when you have 7 or 8 of them, the players only have so much time that can be divided up between them anyway.
Yeah. Well, I
So,
think what it is it's like this paralysis from spreadsheets where
mm,
the executives who like for a long time, Ubisoft like corporate offices in Paris, they've had a lot of influence on the games that are put together in Montreal, in Mumbai, in Shanghai, and like everywhere. And it's because they want control and they want to make sure everybody's following their corporate vision for the lineup of games for all of their franchises. And if you are making good money in a specific period, that makes sense and kind of reaffirms what you wanted to do, and you keep doing that. But what it does is it creates this like great inefficiency and this drag on everything you're doing. And that's also one of the pivots they're making is they're trying to get command and leadership decentralized from Paris and give control back to the studios, which I think will help. But what started to happen pretty clearly is that they just started telling everybody you need to design games to just keep players in for
mm.
as long as possible, because our metrics say when they put this many hours in, they spend this amount of money and the game has this level of player base. And they kind of lost the forest for the trees. They were so focused on the spreadsheets, they lost sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's the thing for me, and I think many people who are very plugged in. It's hard to see a lot of this stuff through the eyes of the mainstream gamer who buys 2 or 3 games a year. Because it's hard for me. It's even harder to remember that from the position of being young and not having the ability to buy the games.
Mhm.
But for people who don't have the time or are into Call of Duty or Madden, and then occasionally that Assassin's Creed game comes along, and they do legitimately spend the next year in that game because
Yeah.
that's their one game purchase outside of the usuals that they buy into. So for me, when I see like Prince of Persia, which should have been a game that's has an obvious beginning and then an obvious end, and then you're done after probably 15 hours at most. It doesn't. It's just not going to compare, as you mentioned, on the business back end to a 100-hour Assassin's Creed game that somebody's
Yeah.
going to spend time in. So like I understand that for the investment side of time and resources and stuff. It's just, man, I wanted that Prince of Persia game.
Yeah.
I wanted that Prince of Persia remake. At least Splinter Cell's still in development. I guess there's that. That's
Beyond Good and Evil 2 is as well, and that was revealed.
I was worried. I said, man, if they're canceling games, we got to get Beyond Good and Evil 2 has to make it, okay? It's got to get past this round of cancellations.
Yeah, literally, dude. That game is the one that never dies. If anybody doesn't know, Beyond Good and Evil 2, I believe, was revealed before Obama was president. Like, I think it was
it was 2008. 2008.
Yeah. Back when the event was called UB Days.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's a vibe. That's a vibe. May 2008, it was revealed. So it's still kicking. It's out there somewhere. Their tech demo from 2017 is still amazing by today's standards, but they got to put a game together with it. That's the tricky bit.
I remember when they did have that on stage trailer. I think it was at a Ubisoft Forward event. And they did show off at least what looked like, I guess, some in-game footage. But that, I think, was the event where they said, hey, you can make music for us, if I'm not mistaken, for the game.
Yeah. I think it was one of those things that I think it was music and possibly like posters and art. And I could see like the immediately people are like, oh, you're using your fans for free labor. I think I can kind of see where they were probably coming from, where they were like, oh, how cool is it that you could make something and then play the game and find it in the game? Like, I can see how a marketing person would be like, that's so great, let's do it. But when you look at it from the context of free labor, it does start to feel bad.
Well, I think with music especially, that one comes up a lot because we know as people on YouTube how serious the music industry is. If there is 2 or 3 seconds of any kind of like music in your video, they will find you and they will strike the entire 20-minute video.
Mm-hmm.
So it is funny, the idea of, hey, you can create audio for us or music and we'll put it in the game. And I don't know. I don't know if money was exchanging hands or if it was just credit or what, but that's a lot different than when Capcom goes, hey, do you want to pitch an idea for a Robot Master? You can, and draw a little picture and maybe we'll do everything else. The idea though of the audio and stuff going into it, music, I don't know, that I think that looks a little strange from the outside. Now, hey, people might go, no problem. Let me fire up my AI companion over here. We'll get you that music in an hour.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I'm sure Ubisoft would do that before anyone else would.
Well, they said generative AI in their pitch deck here for investors.
Yeah, they got the buzzword compendium, and they just gotta hit them at every single point you can. I don't know. It's gonna be fascinating. Like, at some point you're like, can it go lower? Like, can it get worse? I'm not sure. Like, I do think their saving grace for one is that they are cash strapped. And the reason I think that's actually probably a good thing is because it means that now they cannot just do exactly and everything that they want to do. Now they are beholden to Daddy Warbucks. They're beholden to Tencent, who has the money bags. The Guillemot family are wealthy. Yves Guillemot specifically used to be a billionaire. I don't think he technically is anymore. But because they need that Tencent money to keep things groovy, they have to probably, if they go crawling back to Tencent and say, hey, money, please.
Right.
They like Tencent now can say, okay, well, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And Tencent, you can say many things about them, but you can also say that they do not mess around, and they are generally very successful. There's a reason they have Warbucks money, and it's because they know what they're doing when it comes to the gaming business. I think they're currently the number 2 biggest game company in the world. They might be number 1, but they're always up top 2. So because they are going to be able to kind of twist the arm of the Guillemot family, I think they'll be able to push them into making just some of those common sense decisions that they should have made 5 years ago. But it's like, hey, make the games people want.
Yeah, it's just
crazy.
Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? And you mentioned they had so many employees on staff, really, because otherwise, Ubisoft at this valuation has to be Microsoft or Sony. look at that, huh? Wow, they're pretty cheap now. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Tencent got in, so now that's a whole thing to try to unravel if they wanted to buy them. So it might be a little late. That's the unfortunate thing, though, is Tencent with that infusion of capital has a lot of pretty big hold on Ubisoft now. So
Yeah, they kind of have them in a chokehold. They own the thing is they own like 25% of Vantage. I think they are capped at 10% of Ubisoft, the actual organization. And that was capped when they bought in like 2-3 years ago. They actually signed an agreement saying you can't expand your share until X date. So they're constrained there, but they could always negotiate more equity in Vantage, or they could buy other creative houses that they outlined. So there's ways for them to get more cash from Tencent and for Tencent to get something they want out of it. But yeah, when it comes to acquisitions, I think you raise a good point. Like at some point, this does become a bargain. At some point, just
It's,
the IP is valuable.
yes.
And
Yeah,
I think
Sony
that,
has a lot of avenues they can go where they can do Sony Pictures, and so here's another Assassin's Creed movie. Here's I mean, honestly, you could probably sell like a lot of Tom Clancy stuff to Netflix or whoever to make entire series
yeah.
out of. So I think there's a lot of value even outside of games that Sony or even Microsoft at this point, with how we see their Fallout series and stuff doing, could negotiate. So maybe there is an out for Tencent. We're like, we don't want to deal with this. We're gonna figure out how to get our money back.
We're so
Basically,
sick and tired of
Ubisoft's
this.
gonna sell off. The only unfortunate thing is, I think the thing that probably kept, I mean, honestly, Sony and Microsoft away, who know, even EA or somebody away, is the tens of thousands of employees that are there that they wouldn't need,
Yeah.
and it's that a massive catastrophic layoff, you could say, would take place then if that kind of acquisition happened.
Yeah, well, I remember reading an investor piece, like an industry analyst investor piece, and this is probably like a year and a half ago, but so it might have changed. But back then, the analyst estimated that the value of Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, and it was one other IP that they own. Maybe it was Prince of. No, I guess it must have been like Tom Clancy or something. But they said that the value of like those big IP was roughly $4 to $7 billion by themselves. And at the time, Ubisoft was trading at like 1.4 billion. And so, of course, you think of it and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if the things they own are worth this much, why are they valued here? That doesn't make any sense. And it's literally because that gap is just the doubt and the contempt that the investors have for the leadership and the direction. Like, yes, that's what they're worth if properly managed. They are not properly managed, so they are not actually worth that. And I think that that's like the big operative thing, is that if they could be properly harnessed, then it could be very, very interesting to see what a very capable studio and publisher could do with it. But yeah, obviously that's not happening. I think the only way to get a Ubisoft buyout to happen would be probably a hostile takeover, which Tencent might be priming themselves for. It's why you notice in that event that happened on Wednesday, they said, the Ubisoft executives said, we have reviewed the 3-year timeline, really aggressively reworking it. That's not an accident. It's because like once that agreement with Tencent expires and they're allowed to acquire more equity in the parent organization, then a hostile takeover becomes very possible. Ubisoft had to fight one off from Vivendi back in like 2014. So it's not a new thing for them, but now it's cheaper than, I think it might be cheaper than it was even back then.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so if Ubisoft doesn't right the ship soon, that agreement expires. And if Tencent wants to come in, just gobble everything up and be like, we're making Assassin's Creed a mobile exclusive franchise from now on, they could do that. And Ubisoft would have no recourse other than trying to get somebody else to buy it, like an Xbox or a PlayStation. And so if they don't fix it soon, I think things get pretty bombastic.
So we got to get Splinter Cell remake out soon.
Yeah.
Get that done. Yeah, okay.
Get it done before they cancel it, right before it launches. Yeah.
Well, I guess the good news for Ubisoft is I do think Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced will do very well. Especially if although they would probably position it maybe as that's tough because the holiday title with GTA 6 is there, and that's going to be tough for everyone. So if it's a holiday title, I still think it'll do well because it's a remake of like a beloved Assassin's Creed game. So I gotta at least get them off. I guess the
Yeah.
right start
Well,
here. You know?
my understanding, I've heard rumblings, dare I say. I know a lot of the people over at Ubisoft, they're great people. The leadership, less so, but there's a lot of very talented people that work at Ubisoft.
Mhm.
And my understanding is that when these delays came down, a lot of them were a surprise. A lot of the teams that just received delays found out on Twitter. They found out
Yeah.
in YouTube videos. They did not know beforehand, and it's not the first
Sorry.
time it happened. Like the AC Shadows second delay happened without any of the development team knowing about it. They saw on Twitter that their game was delayed. They didn't even know, even though they were in the studio in Quebec with Marc Alexis Cotier, the head of the franchise. He didn't tell them. They just did it out of nowhere. So this is a common thing for Ubisoft. It's just sudden moves
That's
without anyone
crazy.
knowing. But my understanding is that now, like as we speak, they are doing reviews of each of these projects to figure out how much time they actually need to hit the new quality standards. What that standard is, I'm not sure. It might be stuff like you have to be Steam Deck verified at launch. You have to be able to hit 60 FPS on PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. I'm sure it's like certain quality standards like that. This number of reported bugs, that type of thing. And so they're doing those reviews right now, and there's some leakers suggesting that the Black Flag remake may even slip into early next year, like February
Okay.
of 27, which would be crazy. But
yeah. Well, I mean, if it ends up being a better game for it, and honestly, at that point, if they look around and get it everywhere they can, and I mean, like a Switch 2 version of it, maybe they do the thing where they somehow get it on mobile phones, like they did with some of the other Assassin's Creed games, just everywhere they can, because they need a jump start. They need it bad.
Well, and it's why like this year, up until a few days ago, a lot of Ubisoft fans were rightfully, I think, really optimistic. Like they were supposed to be getting the Black Flag remake. They're supposed to be getting AC Hexe, which is going to be like a total revamp of the franchise. It's going to be the first like linear narrative. Think like God of War, but Assassin's Creed with open environments. Like
sounds good.
Yeah, dark with witch trials. It's genuinely sounds really cool. And in addition to like Invictus, which is like a multiplayer game they're reportedly working on, and Jade, which is basically AC Odyssey but on your phone, made by Tencent. There were supposed to be 4 massive games, and then next year they're supposed to rev up with even more Assassin's Creed projects, and now everything is shifting back by up to a year. I mean, the Black Flag remake, most of us expected it to come out before the end of this fiscal year, so by the end of March. So if it's delayed to early next year, that's crazy. Like a full year. How bad is it?
Yeah. That is a good question, actually. That's a big miss then for their financials, and that's tough, because I think it's going to sell well just on the name alone, and the visuals I'm sure will be great. But you miss those smaller titles like that Prince of Persia or something that could drop in where maybe you're missing a few releases. You're like, okay, well, we still have this one at least, and maybe it'll sell 1 million copies, and we'll have something to show for it. Hey, you know what they could, they could do the Prince of Persia trilogy and just put Sands of Time, Warrior Within, and Two Thrones out all in one release. Do that.
Easy.
Attach some trophies.
Lock
to
it in.
Yeah. Let me ask you though, Luke. What you been playing recently? What's the move right now?
I've been playing, so I kind of go through cycles where I play, like if there's new games, of course, playing those, like, Ghost of Tsushima drops, or Ghost of Yotei rather. Then you play Ghost of Yotei, and then this game comes out, you play that. But when I'm going through a lull where I have some breathing room, which is kind of where I'm at right now, I'm trying more experimental stuff for videos, but I've been playing Civilization 6 again with my wife.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we like strategy games, and so at night we go and we are trying to train ourselves up to the deity difficulty, and we do competitive matches in Civilization. But other than that, I like sim games. I like I've been playing. Oh, another one is Elden Ring Seamless Co-op. I finally got around to trying that with a buddy of mine. That thing's baller. That
is it a mod
crazy.
for it?
Yeah. I think it's actually the most popular mod for Elden Ring. It's really easy to install. They have like a step-by-step guide, and literally, like, you just invite your buddy, you log in. I think it supports up to like 8 players or something crazy like that. And you just go through the game, and you can set like bosses have 2x health, or maybe only 20% extra health, or whatever it needs to
I
scale
was gonna
for
ask
your
about
group.
scaling. Yeah,
Mhm.
everyone
You
just
can
basically
tweak it.
trip Melania and just take
Yeah.
her out.
Yeah, it's really well done. I think it works just peer to peer, and it's really impressive. I've been having a great time with that. But like in that same vein, I actually want to ask you
Hmm.
the weirdest game for 2026 to me should also on paper probably be one of the biggest, and that's the Dusk Bloods. Because like this is the next game from Hidetaka Miyazaki from Software. Like this is their next big thing, but it's multiplayer and it's a Switch 2
Yeah,
exclusive.
it's weird, right?
It's freaking weird. And I feel like nobody's talking about it at all.
They haven't. It's because it's been pretty quiet about it. I think there was an interview somewhat recently, and they mentioned that this game had been in development and been in testing and stuff, but it's been in development since like 2019. And
Jeez.
they've been working on it forever. But their big thing is, it seems like they're just trying to QA and make sure everything works really well from quality, but also just the multiplayer side. I assume that.
Mm,
I mean, a lot of these games that when I play through them, I do think about them as single player first, even though there are multiplayer aspects to it. Obviously, people invading your worlds and stuff like that. But this seems like it's going to be completely multiplayer focused.
yeah.
And how many people are dropping in? What does that do to the world? What's scaling, as you're mentioning with this mod? So I think there's a lot of variables that they have to make sure they all line up. It's so interesting though, because this seems to be a project that Nintendo and FromSoft come together on, and they're like, yeah, let's set it up for our future next gen device. This
Yeah.
all happening in 2019 that we're still trying to work to visualize and conceptualize and stuff. So
Yeah.
I will tell you this: there's been a lot of FromSoft people, I assume, they're like, well, I guess I'm getting a Switch too, because apparently it's coming together pretty well.
Yeah, I've heard some people say, I guess I'll do it, and I guess I'll get it. A lot of other people, I saw one guy on Reddit. He was like, I guess I finally know what it feels like, or what it felt like for people that didn't have a PlayStation when Bloodborne came out. He's like, I'm in that spot now. But I do think it's gonna be fascinating. I think also like one of the things I'm curious about is just from a technical standpoint. Do you remember the stories that came out when they showed off Elden Ring running on the Switch 2? For
Yep.
that port. And like
Mhm.
IGN did coverage, they weren't allowed to film it, but they came out of there and the reporter was like, mm-mm.
Yeah, no, it's there are people at the events and that were letting me know how it was going, and it wasn't great in. They had like a dock mode setup that looked pretty rough. In portable play, it was harder to see just because the screen's smaller, but they
Yeah.
would still see that occasional stutter that would happen. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, if they're stuttering in Elden Ring, it's just not going to be great. You are going to die more so than usual with that, and you're going to get
Yeah.
frustrated.
No, it's not a game you need, you want input latency or low frame rates. Like it's kind of important. And yeah, some people were saying they saw it. A buddy of mine said he saw it and it was running at like 15 frames in certain areas in portable mode. And I was like, fam. But like that's apparently the same engine they're using for the Duskblood. So I'm hoping whatever magic they're working for Duskbloods they can share over there. Because I think they delayed that indefinitely. I think it was supposed to
Yeah.
already be out, but they
It was
just like,
supposed to come out for this past holiday, and they were like, nah, we'll let you know later when it's coming out. We still
never
don't know.
mind.
It's like that, and then Borderlands got delayed for it as well. Same thing, because it was at these events, and people were like, "It's looking a little sketchy there," and they
Yeah.
push it. So, I mean, Borderlands 4, as it is, was sketchy on launch for everything. But you think about how it was on like the PS5 Pro, and then you're like, that was going to run on the Switch too. It's like,
Yeah.
what was that going to
Oh.
look like?
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know. It's gonna be fascinating to see. I do think that there's gonna be like I think there's gonna be some surprises this year when it comes to like games. I mean, even last year in 2025, if you looked at the my predictions for 2025 in
yeah.
like late 24, the final lineup for like game of the year probably looked pretty different because I don't think anybody expected games like Expedition to pop off in the way that they did. But I'm excited to see what we don't know. You know, like already this year looks great, but I'm excited to see what we don't know. Do you have any wild predictions or
Let me
anything?
let me ask you. Let me ask you. I do have one wild prediction. I'll share with you. Let me ask you this though. When you guys do the Civilization
Oh
like
yeah.
gameplay, do you guys just have like two PCs set up next to each other and you can call things out in the same room, or what are you playing on with that? I'm trying to picture the strategy setup.
It depends. So, of course, I can play down here,
Mhm.
or like I'll play it on my laptop. My wife also has her own gaming PC and setup upstairs, and then she also has a laptop. Funnily enough, the other day we had like our power go out because there were windstorms in northern Colorado, and so when the power went out, we were just like sitting around. What do we do? Our laptops were fully charged though, so we booted up Civ, and my router was on a battery backup. The internet's down, but the router works, so we were able to play local on the network with each other, and so we were able to play right next to each other. So it just depends. We'll hop on a Discord call and we'll do that. We'll occasionally we'll get other friends to join us, but we're kind of nerds when it comes to it. What kind of
Oh,
games are
good
you
stuff.
playing though? Are you into like strategy games?
I liked Age of Empires when that came out on Windows XP. That was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
That's yeah. I'm the weird one who's like, no, I like Age of Empires 1, not 2. None of that.
Oh,
We
purist.
played it a lot way back in the day in the old house, my parents' old house. We set it all up, and there'd be four of us on the first floor trying to play through old. I had like an old Vio laptop that I played on, and that was a long time ago now that I think about it.
Oh, Vio
But
laptops. Are those even a thing anymore? I don't know. I've remembered the
yeah,
logo so vividly, but I
yeah.
haven't seen one in ages.
Sony kind of backed away from that. I think they have the brand, but I feel like they loan it out to, I think, another manufacturer makes them, but it's not common. I think it's only in certain regions, maybe Japan, maybe, and a
Oh
few
yeah,
others,
I can see
but
that.
it's not as plentiful as it was 20 years ago or something. But like right now, it's funny we were mentioning Ubisoft. I went back to that Avatar game because I just wanted to try it out again. It'd been a long time since I played it, and they added third person, and I was trying it. The navigation just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird in that game. I don't say lost, but I get kind of confused where I am on the map compared to what the objective is, because it's a lot of verticality in it, and the path isn't always obvious where to go. And also it makes you eat stuff a lot.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting to me because like that game is so weird. That and Star Wars Outlaws, because Ubisoft had Ubisoft Massive make them, and that's the same team that does like the Division. And so they assigned them a Star Wars like open world adventure game, and they assigned
Yeah.
them the Avatar game, and you're like, what? Why? Like that's a
And they
weird.
didn't let him put a lightsaber in the game. It's like,
Yeah, they
a
didn't do that.
lightsaber.
The director for Star Wars Outlaws also had a lot of bizarre design choices where he was like, no, you're not going to be allowed to put blasters on your back. You're going to drop it when you hop on a speeder. And it was just weird stuff like that that just was stupid. It was just dumb. And when the game launched, it of course didn't do very well. And then they put a new creative director on it, and he basically undid a bunch of them. And that same guy actually just left Ubisoft Massive to go move over and work at Battlefield Studios. So we'll see what he does over there. But yeah, Avatar also. I mean, it looks gorgeous. The world is
Mhm.
gorgeous, but the cooking system was really weird. I remember the gameplay director. I was fortunate enough to go to a preview event for the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora game at Lightstorm, like at the actual studios for Jim Cameron, where they do the motion capture for the movies. And they had one of the gameplay designers and like the gameplay director and the game's narrative director and all those people there. And I remember asking the gameplay director what system he thought people were sleeping on that would like really impress people in Avatar. And he was like, the cooking system. I was like, what? Like that. And then you play the game, and I think it's like the lamest part of the game. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, the
I mean,
thought
I
that
just
counts.
throw some stuff on the side, and it's like a couple of circles. Yeah, I want to throw stuff in there, and then he does the whole animation, puts it in the fire, brings it back. I'm like, I just need to eat right now, so whatever. Who cares?
Yeah. I think what
I
it was,
constantly eating in the game. I don't know.
yeah, I really think what it was is they wanted to find a way to encourage players to like explore the map and to pay attention to like picking
Mhm.
plants and materials and crafting stuff, which is good. That's why most games have cooking and crafting, is because it encourages you to pay attention in the world so you don't just run through it. But and so like I appreciate that aspect of it, but my stance is that I don't think the game is anywhere near hard enough to justify it, because I never really felt the need, at least in the launch version, to go and like have a whole kit and caboodle of a bunch of crafted soups and potions and stuff. I just didn't need to because the game was too easy. It's the same thing. Like, are you somebody that plays games on hard modes or normal modes, like, or do you
Depends
just
if there is. So if there's like, for example, like I look in the trophy or achievement or something, and it's like play hard mode. It'll give you normal. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll go ahead and do hard mode. If there's like nightmare, I'm like, let me go through hard mode, and then maybe I'll come back for that.
Yeah.
But usually, if it'll have a default, and it's like sometimes it does the weird thing where it says it doesn't tell you it, like Silent Hill F did this, where it didn't exactly tell you what difficulty was which. It was kind of strange. I ended up picking the hardest difficulty for puzzles, but like the normal difficulty for combat. And I just hated the game at that point because the puzzles were so obscure. And like at one point it was in a different language and I had to look it up and it was really strange. But usually it's either normal or hard. A lot of times, depending on if the hard mode's unlocked or if it specifically goes, we really recommend you play it on this one.
Yeah.
Just to get the full experience.
I find balancing in games fascinating because like I really think like one of my gaming hot takes is that I think the only way really to play The Witcher 3 is on Death March. I think the other difficulty settings actively make the game worse than it actually is. And I think it's because like a lot of gameplay systems in games, and I'll use The Witcher 3 as an example, like on Death March, you have to use potions. You got to use your decoctions. You got to brew every potion, upgrade it, get your armor sorted. And, you know, you're doing everything the game has to offer. You're engaging with every system because you have to. You play on normal difficulty, you can get through the whole game without upgrading, swallow the healing potion. You don't have to bother with oils at all. Like no people will go through the whole game and never brew a single oil because the game was too easy. Like I really firmly believe that a lot of games would actually, people would find them better if they got rid of difficulty options and just balanced it around the same experience for everybody, which is why like I think From Software does it the way they do.
Right. You can make the game as easy or as difficult as you want depending on what you craft or take with you or find in the game. And that's, I mean, even like, again, going back through time with games, it used to be, yes, you'd have normal or hard normal or anything like that, but you'd also have games where like Mega Man X, depending on how you want to fight all the different bosses, you can use their weakness or not. And that'll make the game much more difficult for you if that's the case.
Yeah.
So
well, it's like you remember all the craziness around summons when Elden Ring came out, and it was literally like people would be, oh, here's the clip of me finally beating this boss or Melania or whatever, and people are like, oh, well, you were using a mimic tier. Okay, loser.
Yep. Yep. The mimic tier. Oh man, that was like the mark online.
It really was. It was that, and then the I think Comet Azure for a while was super broken, that spell, and then like the it's the Sword of Night and Flame. That thing was busted.
You just look it up. There was that the one that did the Kamea wave. We just shoot.
Oh yeah, we're just like it's like a laser beam. Yeah. It's but like I think to some extent, I don't know about you, I kind of like it when games let you break them. Like I find it really satisfying. Like one of my favorite games, even though it's like on paper got plenty of problems, is South Park: The Stick of Truth. And that is a game where you
can, fun game.
It was a good time. It's like that game though, in the combat system, of course, made by Obsidian, who know what they're doing when it comes to RPGs, but they let you break it. I remember having a bleed build in that game where you could one shot, or I think it was a two shot, the final boss, because you would stack like 7 or 8 bleeding effects on him. So you'd hit him and then it'd cycle to his turn and then he'd bleed out instantaneously. And it just like broke it. But I felt so freaking smart when I figured that out, however old I was at the time. I was like, I did that.
So, I mean, yeah, we've always had the ability for many, many single player games throughout the years to just break them over time. So it's not multiplayer related. You know, you can't have a broken build going into a multiplayer game that would affect other people. So there was, with Expedition 33, I was a little annoyed by this. They went back and nerfed different things because people were able to break the game. And I was like, I don't know about that. Cause I feel like thinking back to older RPGs that they themselves say they were modeling it after, the old Final Fantasies or Lost Odyssey, you could break those games completely to where you're just, you're one shot and everything. And it was more about the time of building up your character, getting the ultimate weapons, and you turn around and go, okay, well, I'm 80 hours into this game. I better be able to one shot these things. So that was the thing with the patch they pushed where people were nuking bosses and stuff. I
Yeah,
That was a little weird to me when they did that.
it was something like I think it was like Mael. Her damage
Hmm.
was calculated as like a double tap or something when it wasn't supposed to be. There was something like that. I know exactly what you're talking about though. Yeah, I get it. Of course, nobody's going to argue with balancing for multiplayer games, but when it comes to single player games, my general viewpoint is like if a player is resourceful enough, or just freaking having a bad time and wants to Google what's the most broken build, and then they spend the time to do it, I'm kind of like, say la vie, like do what you're gonna do. I do think to a certain extent, sometimes players can make the experience worse for themselves. Like I have a buddy, I tease him relentlessly for this every time it comes up. I won't say his name, but it still makes me laugh. He played Elden Ring, and we were trying to do like co-op stuff together. But we all kind of started it at the same time. And me and the other people in our college group, we just kind of played the game normally. But he went off and like Googled rune farming locations, like best place to get runes. And there was that one spot in Elden Ring where the boulder rolled down the walkway and then fell off the cliff. And you could technically run over there, stand close, they
I
die.
remember this.
Yeah,
Yep.
you go rest, and then it repeats and resets. He told me that he did that for like 6 hours.
Okay,
He turned on
I
movies.
did check that out. I was like, let me try this, and it got me to the next level. I was like, that's kind of cool. It took like 30 minutes. He said he did it for 6 hours
He
and
did
turned
like
on a
like
movie.
he turned on Lord of no, okay, this is I remember what he did. It wasn't Lord of the Rings, it was Twilight. He turned on the Twilight series. And I didn't realize he was still logged into my Amazon Prime account from when we lived in the same college house. And so all of a sudden, all of my Amazon stuff is Twilight. Like, order this Team Jacob shirt. And I was like, what the hell is I've never seen Twilight? Like, what is happening? But it's because it thought I was a hardcore fan that watched 6 hours worth of the
Ah.
movies in a single sitting. But like he did that, and then a couple days go by, and we're like, hey, you want to hop on and we'll try to do the co-op thing for this boss? He's like, yeah, honestly, the game's too easy, I'm not having fun.
Oh, really?
I don't think he had even gotten to like Godric or anything, and he was level something stupid like 85, and it was just like totally busted. It's like, yeah, you kind of ruined the game for yourself.
Let me ask you a question, Luke. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay, so I'm starting to. I've realized this as we've been talking, and I keep bringing up like stupid old games, and you're like, "Oh, Elden Ring was good in college." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh,
Now I feel kind
a
of old.
youth.
Now I feel like an old guy.
No, it's
But
okay.
yeah,
I would have experienced a lot more games when I was younger. I grew up in a very like sheltered household. So like I grew up going and playing in chess tournaments, and like that was my thing. But we weren't allowed to play like most games. There were the occasional exception.
oh,
But
okay.
like the types of games we were generally allowed to play was like there was a Donkey Kong Country ripoff based on the Veggie Tales called Minnesota Cuke. And I remember playing Minnesota Cuke back in the day. That's a deep cut. But like that was my experience, was like it was very, very sheltered. So when I finally got the ability to play games, it was in that age of like Skyrim was
Oh,
popping
okay.
off, and like seeing Fallout New Vegas because my uncle had an Xbox 360 and we thought that was so cool because we had nothing like that. And so experiencing all that stuff for the first time, but like that's kind of when my exposure to gaming kind of
Right. No,
started.
I love the perspective. It's so interesting to me because usually many of the people I should say that I talk to were like, yeah, the NES days, and they remember everything. I'm always so fascinated when I hear someone from a different perspective growing up who had like maybe less exposure to a PS2 or an original Xbox or even a PS1 during that era when we were discovering a lot of this stuff. And
Yeah.
like, so for context, like for me, my dad took me to the mall because we had to go see Doom on PC. We had to see it in action.
Gotta
And
see it in
everyone was
person.
crowding around. The mall's still around, by the way. I can't believe it. It's still here. But people were crowding around, and like they had like a big fountain on the side. Everyone's crowding around, and this person is like on this old CRT monitor showing it off because they didn't have big screens then. That's so yeah, he took me to watch demons get blown away in like terrible looking graphics now, but it was a bit different. I was knee deep in gaming very, very early on.
Yeah.
And I was online very early. So that's why it's so interesting to hear like your perspective. Or Josie was one of our members on the Spawncast talking about her perspective, where the PS2 was a retro system growing up and the Wii. So it's always interesting to hear different perspectives and thoughts around these things.
Oh yeah, it's always fascinating to me too like speak with people who had those
Just say old
experiences
people.
back in the day. Yeah, to speak to the oldies is what we
Olds,
call you.
olds.
Yeah. We, but like I find it fascinating because like a lot of people my age did experience that like PS2 era and 360 era, or even the original like Xbox One and PlayStation era. But it was just this very unique case because like I was raised in a household where Harry Potter would corrupt you and send you to hell, and like Pokemon would do that too.
Oh, I love
Um,
Pokemon.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pokemon was evil.
I had a friend
Like,
who had that same thing, and I got in trouble because I had the Pokemon cartridge in my Game Boy in the car,
oh no.
and they found out it was in there. I remember that. That was funny.
Yeah, it's a different time, a different era, frankly. But now my parents have mellowed out a lot. My youngest brother, he's much he's enjoying his teen years much more than I did, I'm sure. But yeah, it's interesting though because like it's given me a different perspective because I get to see this for the first time through older eyes,
Mhm.
and it's just a fascinating thing, you know.
Have you ever considered going back and like checking out any of those older games maybe you missed?
Yeah, the one of them I was just it's funny you mentioned that because I was just talking to a buddy of mine recently. But like in 2006, we took a family vacation for Christmas to a
Mhm.
house in Estes Park, Colorado. And we were there for like a week. And I'm whatever, I'm like 9 years old or something. And so I'm like, got nothing to do. We're in a house, but in the basement, they had a GameCube, which we had never like
Sounds like a
interacted with.
vacation to me.
It was a
That's it right
vacation.
there.
And they had I'm gonna blank on the name. Now the moon Harvest Moon. Harvest
Okay.
Moon.
Mhm.
And it was the one where there's like the archaeologist and everything. And I had this like core vision, this like flashback to that game. And we played it for that 1 week. And we played as much of it as we possibly could. And it was like ingrained in my brain. And I was talking to my buddy recently, just describing this like core memory. And he's like, oh, they released a remake of that like 2, 3 years ago. I think it's Story of Seasons, maybe, or one of those. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, it was like you get hit with the flashback. That's what it felt like. And it was just like, okay, now I need to re-experience this thing I haven't seen in I guess so at this point like, oh my God, 2 decades. Like,
Yeah, you
you know,
you
it's
just go
crazy.
ahead, get yourself a GameCube.
Yeah.
Just go ahead
Well,
and do it.
my younger brother, who's also one of my editors, he works full time for me. He is like a retro gaming collector, so he collects all that stuff, and that's how he's re-experienced it. And I need to do that too because I'm sure it's just going to open a portal, and I'm just going to lose myself in all these
Yo, those would be some
experiences I never had.
interesting videos if you were like, I went back and experienced this for the first time, and it's like Wind Waker for the GameCube or something, or
Yeah,
PS2 games or Xbox. Even the 360 era, I had the this past holiday is 20 years old. For the 360.
Jesus.
So I started picking up a bunch of the launch titles for the 360. I have a whole stack of them over there. I was like, that's right. Need for Speed Most Wanted, the first one, was a launch title, or like Condemned, or Peter Jackson's King Kong. And I'm like going
Oh
through the list.
yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember these games, or Call of Duty 2. So it's fascinating how different things are now versus then, but it's only been 2 decades. So
Yeah. Well, and we're gonna like our kids are gonna grow up and be like, oh, I remember my first game, Fortnite. I
yeah,
remember my first game, Roblox. You know.
as the kids play now, Fortnite, and
Yeah.
one's getting into Forza Horizon, so that's interesting.
Ooh,
But
that's a
yeah,
good one to get into, though. That's a
well,
good one.
they lead an interesting childhood now to where he's like, can I play that on the Xbox ROG Ally, that handheld? It's like yes, sure. And it's like this, the $1,000 ROG Ally they sent me. I'm like, yeah, okay, just don't
Yeah, sure. Take it.
don't
Don't
eat
bring it.
around it. And I walk out there and they're eating over it. It's like, well, all right then, so much for that.
Gotta ask him
So
for another one. I'm sure they
yeah.
send it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Before we run out of time, let me ask you, the Xbox Developer Direct, what was the game that stood out to you?
For me, I'm gonna be real. I expected Fable to look like probably fine, like even pretty good, but like, just fine.
Mhm.
They really impressed me. Like Fable really impressed me. They're trying a lot, but like more than anything, just in its purest form, it feels like Fable. And I didn't really know what exactly that would mean going in, but like Fable is one of those games I tried way back in the day, like in that when I was first getting into games. I guess it would have been like Fable 3 would have been the first one, and then I
Mhm.
went back after. But yeah, I was like, I had missed this, but it's a franchise that's been kind of abused for 15 years and left in the
Yeah.
cold. And so to see it like kind of revitalized is so nice to see. And I think it could be one of the big hits of this year. Like I think that will have such massive mainstream appeal, especially when it starts like going viral and stuff. I think it's gonna be huge. But what about you?
I mean, I was gonna say Fable as well because I went into it. I was like, you know what, Forza Horizon 6, they know what they're doing. Playground Games, it's in Japan. They basically just don't have to mess it up, and it's gonna look and probably play really, really well. And it does. It looks like what I was expecting, which is like top tier open world racing with some arcade sprinkled in. But Fable, man, I gotta say, I was a little nervous for Playground, like you mentioned, because they're using the engine from Forza in this. So I'm like, I don't even know what that's gonna look like, other than photogrammetry for environments and stuff, which looks great. But then
Mm,
they start talking about the game itself beyond just the combat and all the things you can do with. You could be a jerk of a landlord if you want. You can roam the land and just make 100 babies if you want, and then divorce all the moms and just keep moving along and just be a jerk. It's so funny. All the like the I don't know if I even say slice of life stuff you can do, because some of it is just downright rude. But it looks like, and they made a lot of promises. The idea that the
mhm.
NPCs live their own life and they have daily routines and you can follow them around. And if you hire one, 8 hours of their life might be working at your shop, and you can go, I guess, stand there and watch them work at your shop.
Yeah.
If that is the case and they really pull it off, I will be blown away by Playground Games. Forza Horizon 6, and then maybe 4 or 5 months later, they're going to also release Fable. It's
Yeah.
like that's
I
kind of ridiculous.
I'm gonna be real. I used to think I remember in the discussions over Hogwarts Legacy, I was really skeptical of that team because the game they made before Hogwarts Legacy was Cars 3 Driven to Win. Like I was like, and they're gonna do this, they're gonna do like a big Harry Potter open world adventure game. But I think what I learned from that is never underestimate a true passion project. Like for this team, they've wanted to give life to Fable again, and it's pretty clear after seeing this reveal, they understand what like Fable is and the feeling of Fable, and to see them come out swinging with this is just so refreshing and impressive. I wouldn't expect it to be like a 10 out of 10. I'm not saying it's going to be have a story that causes you to just weep and gnash teeth, but like I expect that it's going to be a good time, just like Fable 1, 2, 3, where like it's going to be just fun, just stupid,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
Forza Horizon
something we
6
need
comes in. I think it's going to be like probably in low 90s, somewhere in there for Horizon 6. I think you can pencil that one in. If Fable shows up and it's 85 or higher on Metacritic, I'll be like, man, Playground Games, they had a 2026.
for real. Yeah, I think people should not sleep on that. My wife, who is she's like a hardcore RPG fan typically. Like she her favorite game is like Dragon Age Origins,
Oh, nice. Okay.
um, and she saw the Fable stuff and was like, okay, that looks awesome. And I was like, okay, so it's getting your interest. And she's not typically like one to be in tune with upcoming games beyond what I ramble about outside of the office. But she saw that and was like, oh, okay. And I think a lot of people are going to be in that same spot where they're going to see it. And some of these clips are going to go viral of some of this crazy stuff you can do with just the systems that they have. Yeah, I would not sleep on Fable. I think Fable's going to be huge.
There's be a lot of NPC abuse on TikTok from that game. This is
Yeah.
gonna happen. It's gonna be
I
ugly.
just filmed a video before we started, and in the video, it's going to go up like an hour after this. I said like I'm going to try going to the street and I'm going to like get everybody. I'm going to buy every building in the street and I'm going to like kick them all out, evict all of them, and see if I can make a whole village homeless. And I just let all the buildings empty. Like I want to try that stuff,
Yeah, just see how it all changes everything in the game. That's I'm fascinated with what Playground's going to turn in here. So it's pretty cool stuff to see them rolling along.
Oh yeah,
But I think that's an hour,
yeah.
Mr. Luke Stevens,
That
sir.
was baller. It flew by. My goodness.
Yeah,
Crazy.
how's everything over there though? How you doing?
Oh me, I'm rocking and rolling. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm happy.
that's good. That's good. I just see you upload it all the time, hanging out, just streaming, covering everything in games. So it's good to
Living the
see.
dream. Yeah, no complaints, no complaints. We're trying a lot of other stuff. I started a games showcase, New Game Plus showcase. And we're I mean, that on the back end was outrageously successful, especially for some of the smaller participants, the indie devs and stuff, who saw 200% increases in their wish list counts and
Oh
stuff like
wow.
that. One group got like a solid 130% increase in Patreon subscriptions overnight with the showcase. Like, really impressive turnaround. We did yap too much, I will give you that, in the showcase, but we are going to come out swinging with that later this year when we do another one, and with a lot of the other stuff we have planned. So that, in addition to everything else we're doing, I couldn't be happier or more thankful for the audience. I mean, really, it's
What was
been
the
great.
first one? So, you guys put it out there, you get some feedback, and we've all been around the internet long enough in front of a lot of people to not take it personally, and then you just kind of refine the show as you go along. So it's good to
Exactly. I
hear
was
there's
thinking,
another one.
guys, if people are talking about the show and they have feedback, which means at the very least they sort of care just a little, and that's good. That's very good. And some, like, I'm used to getting passionate feedback on stuff, and so I was like, yeah, don't, just take it in, but it's not personal. They're just telling you, like, shut up. It's fine. But some of the other people that participated were not, I think, used to how to deal with that type of stuff, and I was like, we
Oh.
just roll with it. And now, after it settles down and the numbers come back in, and the numbers are outrageous, so we're very thankful for that, and we're going to knock people's socks off with the next one for sure.
That's good to hear. I'll be looking forward to it. See what you guys have. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you again, Luke Stevens, joining me today.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for having me. This was wonderful.
And I'll be back with more of these. Maybe at one point I'll be back with Luke Stevens again. We'll see what happens.
I'm
Ubisoft,
down.
I'm sure they'll make headlines again at some point. So.
We'll have more to talk about. Yeah.
Right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Check out Luke Stevens' course on his channel. I'll have a link down below in the description as well. We'll see you guys next time.